We need to talk about Damiano Caruso. He's snuck into second place in the Giro. So we're talking after stage 16, a very dramatic, rainy and cold, coverage-affected stage to Cortina d'Ampezzo. And this Bahrain victorious guy, who's not even the second best rider on the team on paper, is now second place in the Giro, 2 minutes down on Egan Bernal, basically. Is he the surprise package of the Giro, Amy or Joe?
I think he has to be right now. Second place in the GC, like you say, Andy, and he's over a minute ahead of anyone else as well, a minute ahead of Carthy in third place. He's just snuck there. He's been so consistent throughout the race as well, and he's done it without Mohoric, Gino Maeda, and Mikel Landa as well. So they're a heavily depleted team right now, down to 5 riders left in the race. So for him to be second place overall is such an accomplishment. I think he's yet to win a stage race in his career. So for him to be second on the podium of a Grand Tour heading into the final few days, a sublime performance, you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, he isn't there yet. There's still 3 tough stages at least to go on the TT, but he's a diesel. He just seems to be getting, slightly better as the race goes on. Now the pressure's really on though. Like Simon Yates is no longer second. Carthy's looking good. That'll be interesting to see how he deals with that. But anyone who even had, Damiano Caruso each way before the Giro, fair play, you're Nostradamus. So now we've talked about him because we've done 2 debriefs in this Giro and not even mentioned his name. Let's move on to the action-packed stage 16 from Sacile to Cortina d'Ampezzo over the Passo Giau. Before we talk about the action, of course, we've got to talk about the pre-race action and the cancelling, shortening of the stage. So we lost the Passo Fidaya and the Passo Pordoi, 2 big giants in that range, over 2,000 meters because of cold conditions, sub-zero, ice, some ice on the downhills apparently. And there's been a lot of conjecture about that, from riders, managers, social media. Amy, what are your thoughts on that?
I think ultimately, it's like we saw yesterday with that big crash, right? They have to just take safety as the most important factor. But also, it's kind of like half of the course when you're in the mountains. It was to be expected. These are very high mountains. The weather's unpredictable. And they knew for the time of year what the conditions might be like. I just think maybe there was a bit more that could have been done to try. I don't know what. I'm not a race organizer. What do I know? But yeah, I think the biggest shame was that we didn't get to see anything.
I don't know enough about technology to understand really at all why we didn't get to see anything. Kind of, Joe, can you shed any more light on?
So I think they needed the aeroplanes in the air to basically send a signal from the motorbikes with the cameras, to distribute the images globally. And essentially, I don't think the aeroplanes were allowed to take off as they would usually. So we were relying, I think, on 4G signal from the motorbikes, which obviously worked in some areas and didn't seem to work at all or very well in other areas at all. So I feel like if that's the backup strategy, it doesn't seem to, be as consistent as you'd hope it would be.
Welcome to trying to follow women's races, guys.
Good point. What I thought wasn't very helpful was getting opinions from team managers and riders. Some riders saying, I wanted to race the whole stage, but isn't that very convenient? The whole point is that it can't be decision by committee. The reason the race organisers have to make that call is because they're the nearest thing to kind of neutral as anyone can be. Like every team manager, every rider has their own agenda. So it's happened. And I don't think we saw bad racing. I don't think we lost that much. Like they probably have tapped up the Fidaya, the first climb, kind of anyway. It's hard to say, isn't it? And maybe pointless to speculate. maybe Bernal would have won by even more. Like, what might have happened, do you think?
Well, I think the people who struggled, Simon Yates struggled today comparatively to how he did on the Zoncolan, of course, and obviously many other riders struggled behind Egan Bernal. I feel like we may have seen slightly bigger gaps, but I'm not sure if they'd have lit the race up. You know, EF came to the front really aggressively ahead of the Passo Giau, and they really tried to press on for Hugh Carthy. I'm not sure if they would have done that on the Passo Giau with 100k to go. So I feel like it was still a great race. But yeah, from a pure racing standpoint, it was still a great stage, and I don't think it was taken away too much by the loss of the Passo Giau and the Passo Pordoi.
Yeah, shorter stages, as we often say, especially comparing to women's racing, for example, where the stages are always shorter, actually brings more exciting, more dynamic, more aggressive racing. So yeah, like I say, I think the biggest letdown of the day, which is again like nobody's fault, it's just conditions, was that we couldn't really see it.
Yeah, like even the downhill, not so much Bernal, because he would have minimized his risks kind of going down the Passo Giau, but being able to see Bardet and Caruso link up and work together and probably take that descent quite riskily. I mean, Bardet's a very good descender. That would have been nice to see. But there was still a lot to like on the stage. Like, for example, Egan Bernal, the Maglia Rosa, really going for it early. Could have used Danny Martinez, chose not to, lit it up, and no one could stay with him. It's really refreshing to see a race leader in any race, let alone a Grand Tour with 4 or 5 days still to come, racing like that, right?
Yeah, so good to see. And he hasn't shied away from it at all, has he? He's done that a few times, been really aggressive. I know when he first took pink in Campo Felice, just ahead of the first rest day, he was really aggressive there. He didn't need to be. And yeah, he was aggressive on the Zoncolan as well, attacking Simon Yates. After Yates had attacked, he pressed on in the final kilometre. And yeah, he did the same, even more aggressive here. So I think it's great to see him. Bernal is just, he can't help himself really. I think he said in his interview that he really wanted to kind of show that he's back and do something special here. And I think he's already definitely done that at this race.
Yeah, he did say that. And he also was saying that that's the kind of racing that he likes to watch, where it's aggressive and where it's exciting. So he wanted to create that. And yeah, it's great to see a race leader doing that instead of, trying to be really conservative. Also, impressive skills taking his jacket off that I think Jai Hindley will be jealous of. Sorry, that was really...
Total baller move though, wasn't it? Like just casually riding over slippery cobblestones, tucking it away, sitting up, probably losing 5 seconds. Doesn't matter because he's going to win the Giro anyway, probably by more than 2 minutes 20. And I think it's fair to say people in the past have been very quick to call out Team Sky, Team Ineos for racing defensively, boringly, skybots, etc. Well, this is a really attractive fusion of conservative defensive racing when it needs to be, and then gung-ho aggression. It's really good to see, isn't it? It helps when you have the strongest team and the strongest rider in the race, though, and you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got Egan Bernal and you can just say attack here and you'll probably win, I guess that probably is a big advantage in doing that. But they definitely have changed their attitudes. I think they may have tried to ride definitely this second week more defensively once they've gained the jersey before, and they've definitely tried to press on in areas as well, which is just great to see. And also good to see some other teams as well trying to take it to Ineos as well. We saw Astana try and do that on the Zoncolan or ahead of the Zoncolan. That didn't really work for Vlasov there. We saw EF as well do it here. So teams, I think they're working out. They can't just go to the final climb of the stage with Bernal and hope to beat him. They have to try and shake it up a little bit. And that's really good to see as well, I think. Let's
talk about the rest of the race and how we see it panning out on the way to Milan. There's 5 more stages. They go up Sega di Ala after the rest day, and then Alpi di Mera the day after, which is another tough, 12k, 8% climb. Then stage 20 before 30k TT is up the Spluga Pass. These are all tough climbs. They're steep, they're longish. I presume we'll think that Bernal has this wrapped up, correct? First place.
Well, it's a hard final week, but it's also the kind of riding that suits Bernal, and he's obviously shown he's on imperious form. So I don't. It's difficult to see anybody seriously challenge him for the jersey.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. He looks in absolute control, and I think he's almost been toying with the other GC contenders at times. You know, he can just sit on their wheel and attack when he likes. So he looks unbelievably good. And I think particularly today on the Passo Giau, showing that he can do it in the really high mountains, on the punchy finishes at this Giro. You know, he's got all the terrain. He's got it covered. I think he's got this Giro one.
He's an all-terrain vehicle.
Just like the team that he rides for.
Oh God, no! That's not what I was trying to do.
Well, they're just picking up Venus Grenadier, so hopefully we can get some commission from them for mentioning them. They only set you back about 50 grand, probably. Well, yeah, Bernal is completely on it, but the big question is who's going to be on the podium with him? Which riders are kind of rising and which seem to be falling? Amy.
Well, I'm really impressed with Hugh Carthy.
Let's go into your love of Hugh as well.
I just think he's got this great, like, I don't know what the word really is. It's like, he's just kind of who he is unapologetically.
Panache?
Yeah, but it's more just the way he's just like, in post-race interviews, he just seems like he's just straight to the point. He's just a proper, like, straightforward northern lad. And I also was a huge fan of his, he probably didn't even do it on purpose, but his like clear the situation with the glasses, and today he just looked like he was in a science lab today. I don't know. He's different. And I like that. But also he rides very well. And he apparently told his team today that he saw the weather and said, we can win the Giro today, or we can win this. Was the stage or the overall? He said, I don't know. But they obviously went for it, and it paid off because now he's moved up into third on GC. So he's been quietly kind of chipping away and just riding really consistently. And yeah, I'd really like to see him finish on the podium.
Yeah, I feel like Carthy could definitely be there, and that would be his second Grand Tour podium in 2 years as well. I mean, after the Vuelta last year, but I think maybe Giulio Ciccone is riding really well, and obviously with the time trials come in Milan, that's going to hurt him, and he's going to have to get onto the podium with a buffer before then. But I feel like he's just ridden so well. He lost a lot of time on the gravel stage on Montalcino, that crazy gravel day, but really on the uphill finishes, he's been among the best. So I feel like Ciccone could be, he's 6th place right now, but I feel like he could move up definitely.
This is the thing, like, just to read out the standings from 3rd to 7th, there's barely a minute separating them. You have Hugh Carthy at 3:40 from Bernal, Vlasov at 4:18 for Astana. Simon Yates was a fairly big loser today at 4:20, just behind him. Giulio Ciccone, 4:31. These are really tight gaps. Then Romain Bardet, one of the surprises of the day. Maybe it shouldn't be so surprising. At 5:02, he's someone. If he's starting to go well right now, when he needs to be going well, he could leapfrog, kind of everyone but Carthy. In theory, these last few days are where you can really make your form count, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But again, we've done it, guys. We've mentioned our podium picks without mentioning Damiano Caruso. He's 2nd place. He's 2 minutes 20. Can't we overlook him? I mean, if he keeps going, he's got a podium, surely.
It seems like it's going to happen. But I think Pello Bilbao must be fuming. He might have thought it would be his chance when Landa crashed out. It's just funny, isn't it, cycling? Like, something like Landa crashing out can just change everything. And you end up with Caruso in 2nd place, which they probably would have taken with Landa.
Yeah, it's so obscure. I mean, if Landa crashed out, I'd have been sure that Pello Bilbao would have been the 2nd leader before the race. He'd just won a stage, I think, of the Tour of the Alps. But no, Caruso, almost the 3rd rider. He was really good at the Tour de France last year in some of the high mountains. But for him to be this good in the GC riding for himself with like limited support, right now with riders crashing out. It's just, unbelievable.
Let's talk about the last week of racing. So we've seen more wins for small teams, basically, especially Quebec Assos, I think, have won 3 stages in the last week. They had Mauro Schmidt on the Strade Bianche stage, Victor Campenaerts the other day into Slovenia, and who's the other one?
Giacomo
Nizzolo, of course. How can we forget? The last opportunity for sprinters. That was a pretty popular winner, really. I think you couldn't begrudge someone who's finished second like 11 times winning that stage.
Yeah, that was great to see. And I loved his fan club at the side, just like, who cares about COVID? We're just going to completely like enshrine this guy now. Yeah, I mean, like you say, to come second, to be the bridesmaid so many times, and then finally get to be the bride. It's great.
Yeah, and I think the way he won it as well, because I think his lead-out man, Max Volscheid, his chain dropped, or he had a mechanical in the final kilometre. He had to make a lot of ground up himself, and he just went for it. Almost for the final 400 metres, he was in the wind, whilst other sprinters were being protected, and he won by a mile, won by a canter ahead of the rest of the sprinters in the end. So it was a lovely way, I think, to finally break that run of second places.
So not sure what his helmet says or what the writing on there means, but anyway, it barely matters, does it? We should mention also Lorenzo Fortunato, who won on the Zoncolan, probably one of the most unlikely Grand Tour stage wins in recent history. I was one of those people who kind of wondered how Iolo Cometa got the invite in the first place, because I was like, do they really deserve it? No one's really a big name on that team. Well, they've proven me wrong, and probably a fair few other people, with a really appealing kind of gutsy win like that Zoncolan. It just, you can see on the riders' faces how damn hard it is, you know.
Yeah, and it was the easy side as well, the easy side of the Zoncolan too, not the side they've ridden before. So it's quite something, that mountain. I'm glad I've never had to ride up there myself, to this point at least. And yeah, I mean, Fortunato, in that breakaway, there was Bauke Mollema, George Bennett as well, who both really trying to hunt a stage win quite aggressively. Jan Tratnik as well. There's some really good riders in that breakaway, and he won really well ahead of those guys. I think when that breakaway seemed to be winning the stage, I thought it was pretty much Mollema versus Bennett. But for Fortunato to win like that, just so impressive.
I was just going to say, is Alberto Contador riding from Madrid to Milan? Do we know if that's actually happening?
It's happening.
Is it?
I mean, I hope so. He said he's going to do it, right?
Yeah, you can't go back on it now, can he?
He has to do it. I mean, that's the worst thing to do, is to promise something on social media to like 10,000 people watching on Instagram Live. So I'm assuming he'll be there in Milan. It's about 120k per day, isn't it? At least, even if he left the day after the win.
Suerte, Contador.
But yeah, in a kind of Giro second week of surprises, who are your surprise packages? The riders who shone under the radar in the second week.
I was actually going to say Fortunato. So we've already, we nicked that one. So that was going to be mine. I'll try and think of a second one if you like.
If I had to go for one, I'll go for Alessandro Covi for UAE. He's been in a few breakaways. He was second on the Strade Bianche stage, and then third on the Zoncolan as well. Quite different terrains. And he's 22. He's in his first Grand Tour. Obviously, he hasn't won that stage yet, but he's looking really good. And I think he was in the top 5 of the Baby Giro, maybe last year or the year before. So he's a very talented rider, and I'm not sure exactly what he is yet. But hopefully he's given a few more chances as well in the final week. And yeah, he's riding really well.
Been very positive. So let's slag some teams off. Which teams and riders do you think need to do better over the last few days to salvage their Giros?
I think without Evenepoel, well, no, because they've got Almeida. No, forget that. I was going to say Quick-Step need to get themselves in some more breakaways or something, but obviously
I was going to say to Koenig as well, actually. I was going to say Quick-Step because I feel like, they came to the race with Almeida and Remco, 2 great options in the GC. They're currently 10th with Joao Almeida, and Remco dropped, I think, 24 minutes today. He's out of the GC battle now. So for them to not really be there in the GC, they haven't come close to a stage win either. Well, really until this stage, I feel, with the Joao Almeida from the breakaway. And I feel like, if they go away without a stage win and just scraping a top 10 in the GC, are they going to be happy with that? I'm sure they won't be. So I feel like they're one of those teams definitely who've probably underperformed so far.
As really kind of what I realised in the breakaway today is that there's a lot of big name teams who haven't got a stage win yet. So you had Nibali up there for Trek, you had Movistar with Pedrero. There's, I think, Jumbo-Visma haven't got a stage yet either. We had this scenario where I think Ineos have won 2 or 3 stages, and the rest, by and large, have gone to smaller name teams. So there's going to be, mad rushes for the breakaway every single day from now on, and that'll be good to watch too. I think the Koenig will be. It's hard, isn't it? Because it was always going to be a massive test for Remco. He's 21, have done a Grand Tour, hadn't raced for like 8 months. But it's all shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, should they have backed Almeida on the Strade Bianca stage and let him stay with leaders? It's all kind of said and done now, isn't it?
I think it looks like Evenepoel's going to probably leave after the rest day too. I think Lefebvre was saying that if he loses a lot of time today, there's no point in him in carrying on. So yeah, looks like he'll be pulling out.
Yeah, I feel like it's a shame that Almeida lost that time on stage 4 to Sestala, because he really dropped I think he lost 4 minutes to the main GC guys. If he just stayed maybe 1 or 2 minutes down, maybe he could have been a card in the GC, and he looks to be growing into the race really well now. So maybe a bit of a shame for them that Almeida did drop that time, because if they had been able to keep him closer for longer, maybe they'd be much closer as well in the GC with Almeida.
Let's finish with one last ill-advised prediction. The race ends with a 30k TT, a flat one into Milan, which will make some differences on the GC. Who's going to win? Joe?
The time trial or
the time trial? The time trial.
I mean, I made the mistake on the first stage of going with Remy Cavagna. I'm not going to do it again. I'll go keep it simple. Pippo Ganna of Ineos, I think, is going to win the stage, and I think he'll win by quite a margin as well.
I mean, it's impossible to look past Ganna, no? Like,
it's very possible. He's going to be knackered from working for Bernal for the last 2 weeks. Is my opinion.
Who are you going for, Andy?
I actually haven't thought about this before asking that question. Now I'm on the spot. I'm just going to go for Victor Campenaerts because he's popped into my head. But he will be better rested than Ganna, probably. And, motivation is an all-time high on that team. I'm not sure how he does over those long TTs, but why not Victor?
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe Eduardo Affini has a chance. He was second on the first stage, and he almost stole that stage from Nizzolo, which would have been probably even more heartbreaking for Nizzolo. But yeah, I mean, Affini's maybe another good shout as well, but I'll stick with Ganna.
Or maybe Foss. He came third on the first time trial too. So it was a very different time trial though as well, wasn't it? That's the thing. Although Ganna's going to win still, so
it's all irrelevant. Actually, yeah, let's big up to Tobias Foss for having a great stage today, and I think he's still top 10. He's one of the big surprises of the race too, and he's currently competing for a top 10 in a Grand Tour, so a lot of potential there for Jumbo-Visma. It's not been a total bust for them,
Yeah, he needs to win the Tour de France still this year. Tour de l'Avenir winner.
No pressure, Tobias.
Joe, we didn't mention your boy Vlasov.
Vlasov?
Was it not you that was like saying it? Was that not him? I thought you were like bigging him up before. Maybe I've just...
I probably did. I don't know. I can't remember. Sorry.
When you said to your boy, I was like, where's the Russian in Joe? I didn't realise.
No.
Hit it well for me.
Yeah.
I've got an affinity with him because he's got the same birthday as me.
When's that?
23rd of April. Also
Yeah.
Shakespeare's birthday.
The sad thing is I'll probably try to group it in my head with bike races. So like when Liège-Bastogne-Liège or Amstel Gold Race comes around, that's your birthday weekend. And that's how I'll try to remember it.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, the life of a cycling journalist. On that note, let's call it a day. No, we're keeping that in. That's gold. That stays, Joe. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, like and subscribe. Buy Rouleur magazine, and we'll join you post Giro for a last debrief.